The White Cliffs of Dover. No bluebirds, but plenty of birdies for 1 week in July, just up the normally sleepy Kent coastline. The relaxed pace of this county was replaced by the general buzz of excitement generated by a truly global gathering. For the 13th time more than any other English venue, Royal St George's in Sandwich was proud to be home to the Open Championship. It all began back in 1894. J.H. Taylor and Harry Varden were early winners. Sir Henry Cotton was victorious in 1934. And South Africa's Bobby Locke was feeling champion in 1949. Texan Bill Rogers was the first Open winner here in the modern era. Before Sandy Lyle became the first homegrown winner since Tony Jacklin 16 years prior. Lyle returns this week to relive those heady days. As does the Great White Shark, who in 1993 produced golf's Norman conquest. With an aggregate score of 267, which remains a record, Greg Norman was magnificent in lifting the claret jug for the second time.
When I look back on the tournament, it was obviously one of the greatest tournaments I've ever played in, irrespective of whether I won the tournament or not.
A decade later, the Great White Shark is hungry for more.
This here is the Open Championship. It's got tradition, it's got age. You come to little towns like Sandwich and you enjoy the hospitalities that they offer, and there's never be another golf championship like it.
Ernie Els, the defending champion, insists that he doesn't feel under any additional pressure following his triumph at Muirfield.
It's been a year since I won this tournament. To be honest with you, I haven't really felt anything different this week. I just want to come here and enjoy my Open.
And if you revel in the challenge of links golf as Ernie does, Royal St George's supplies the ultimate test of shot making, course management, and above all else, patience. It's a unique experience.
It is a golf course unlike the other links golf courses. At times you think you're playing on the moon. Yeah, there's nothing flat on this golf course. Everything bounces away. So you just got to take the rough with the smooth here this week.
The career of a certain Tiger Woods has been far more smooth than rough, but the world #1 joins Els in appreciating the need for inner calm.
It's going to be a very difficult week when you're going to have to really maintain your patience and understand that you're going to get some good hops and some really bad hops, and just go on about your business.
Wise words from the 27-year-old Californian, who, like the other 155 competitors and the thousands of spectators attracted by this enduring spectacle, were raring to see the show on the road. When the big day finally dawned, tantalizingly after a week of sweltering sun, the morning starters arrived to find the course, if not spirits, somewhat dampened by a downpour. But that didn't deter Henny Otto. Having teed off in the first group at 6:30, the South African felt like singing in the rain. After posting a 68. Woods also donned his waterproofs on the first tee, and few could have predicted how his championship would begin. Evoking memories of Muirfield, his initial tee shot found rough well to the right. The eyes of the golfing world were on Woods, but no one could find his ball. Time was running out, bringing the 5-minute ruling into play and sending Woods back to the tee. No doubt shaken from having lost his first ball in professional golf, Woods was to miss the fairway again. After much un-Tiger-like drama, the pre-championship favourite would putt out for a triple bogey 7. The expression said it all. Woods in uncharacteristic fashion making waves. there were better fortunes for Davis Love III. This birdie at the troublesome 8th was one of the highlights of an opening 69 for the former US PGA champion. Competing for only the 3rd time this year, many believed that Norman would be too rusty to contend. How wrong they were. Playing as he did a full decade earlier, Norman inspired much excitement with a typically charismatic display. Time appeared to have stood still in this corner of Kent as the 48-year-old carded a 69.
The golf course has been brutally tough, and I'm delighted with my score. I worked hard. I was very relaxed. I putted well. I could see the shots I wanted to hit. Some of them I didn't hit the way I would like to, but considering this is my 3rd golf tournament for the year, I felt very, very comfortable and satisfied.
Standing on the 7th tee, Woods was neither comfortable nor satisfied. Intently watching the morning action unfold at his abode for the week, Ricky Roberts, the caddy of Tiger's closest pursuer in the world rankings, Ernie Els.
To win the Open Championship was a dream come true for me. Walking down that 18th fairway, you know, with the big man, and then seeing him lift the claret jug it was very emotional.
But Roberts and his boss weren't in the mood for resting on laurels, and Ricky set off for the course with ample time to spare.
Number one responsibility is show up on time. That is number one. Getting the yardages done, you know, making sure the bag's prepared, make sure you got the right number of clubs in there.
The quality of the job, as far as Roberts is concerned, can be enhanced by a pre-round scouting mission. He's certainly well acquainted with Royal St George's, every nuance covered.
It just gives me an idea that when your second shot wants to be finishing just here, if possible, just left, or maybe just pass it or run back down, you know. I get a picture in my mind of where the flag is, and then, you know, when I'm giving him the yardage and when I'm telling him where the flag is, that I know exactly where that flag is, and, you know, which is the best spot to actually put your second shot in there.
Then, just before 2 o'clock, it was time to put all of that theory into practice. Els and Roberts, quite a double act, and one that Ricky is mighty proud to be part of.
It's great to work for one of the, you know, the top player in the world, and I wouldn't swap it for anything, I've got to say.
On the tee from South Africa, the defending champion, Ernie Els.
The introduction complete, it was down to business. And Els, trying to become the first player to successfully defend the title since Tom Watson in 1983, struggled from the outset. The putter let him down all day during an opening round of 78. The early morning rain was replaced by a freshening wind. So brisk, in fact, that it blew the roof off the TV commentary box on the 18th. It was a time for battening down the hatches and gritting your teeth. Tiger's fortitude in adversity was underlined, as despite his nightmare start, he battled back for a respectable 73. His birdie 3 here at the 475-yard 15th was very much a rarity. Woods, the centre of attention. His compatriot Ben Curtis, round in 72, still a bit part player. That would change. It was a frustrating day for many of the game's leading lights, Els and his faithful bagman Roberts included. And a quadruple bogey 8 on the 17th transformed an otherwise fine round from Thomas Bjorn into a 73. He incurred a 2-stroke penalty when his club made contact with the sand in a greenside bunker on the penultimate hole. When darkness descended, Otto remained in front, one ahead of Love and Norman. Ho and Jakobsen were the only other players under par. What a difference a day makes. As the mercury rose, the players arrived at the course with renewed vigour, such as Thomas Bjorn, keen to forget about his bunker blunder. The Royal and Ancient Golf Club's officials were also back at Royal St George's to resume their invaluable duties. Australia's John Hopkins, the man in charge for the 3-ball of Stuart Appleby, Kenny Perry and Padraig Harrington.
As a walking rules official, I'm basically in charge of this group, and that includes the 3 players, the 3 caddies, the scorer, the lady scorer, the board carrier, and the raking superintendent. So that's 10. And if you have any more than that, you've got a complete football team.
In common with a football referee, a good day for any rules official is a non-controversial, quiet day with few decisions to make. It wasn't a quiet day for Ernie Els, but he wasn't complaining. The Big Easy managed a 10-shot improvement on his opening score by putting together a round of 68, which stood as best of the day. Els, the winner of 5 tournaments so far this year, including the Scottish Open at Loch Lomond only 5 days earlier, was back in the picture. Much to the delight of Ricky Roberts, for whom the bag suddenly felt lighter.
Played great today. I mean, putted much better. Obviously, it wasn't quite as windy as it was yesterday afternoon. The pins are very, very tricky. But I think, we've put ourselves in position now and just go from here, see where we go.
Once again, thousands journeyed to Sandwich. But apart from the cognoscenti, few knew much about Ben Curtis, who matched his first round 72 to figure prominently. The young man, born in Columbus, Ohio, the hometown of Jack Nicklaus, was proving a real surprise package. It was a good day for the American contingent, led by Davis Love, the only player under par after 2 rounds, thanks to a fortunate ricochet off an out-of-bounds post on the 14th. Now that's what you call a close shave. But there's no point in having Lady Luck on your side if you don't take advantage. And Love, winner of the Tournament Players' Championship at Sawgrass in such fine style back in March, really cashed in.
All in all, I guess it's a good day. I felt like I threw away a lot, but also saved a lot. It was just one of those days to grind it out.
Hopkins and his 3-ball on the 5th, a hole that's etched into the folklore of the Open Championship thanks to a bizarre incident there involving one of Harrington's fellow countrymen in 1949. An incident that directly affected the outcome of the event. It's quite an intimidating hole, but Harry Bradshaw didn't lose his bottle. In fact, he found one as his drive finished in the neck of a broken bottle. Unsure about the relevant rule, he played it as it lay, made a double bogey, and was eventually beaten in a playoff by Bobby Locke. Such expensive rules confusion would never be allowed to exist today, thanks to the officials sent out with every group, their job to supply hands-on assistance when the need arises.
This year at the Open Championship we have 65 officials serving on our rules committee. They come from all over the world. I think we have 12 countries represented on our committee, and that has developed a lot over time. Really the numbers exploded in 1990 when we took the decision to have a walking rules official with every game.
The bell tolled for the assembled rules experts in the heart of Sandwich Town, the Monday preceding the championship. There they met for a briefing regarding the week ahead. Then, fully informed, it was onto the course itself for a flavour of the eventualities that just might crop up.
The Open Championship presents unique difficulties in that we build grandstands. I think there are over 20,000 seats out there on the golf course this year. We have TV towers to facilitate the television coverage. We have miles and miles and miles of cables. Then you add in all the spectators and the like. So that environment creates certainly the possibility of a number of rulings.
Add to that the fact that Royal St George's also has some unique features.
A quiet week for us is perfect. We would be delighted to have no major rules incidents, delighted not to have to appear before the media to explain our actions, but usually something will happen. It's just a case of when and where and how serious it is.
As the welcome sun continued to beat down, though, the day passed serenely, rules-wise. It was smiles all round as the championship began to take shape, with many of the game's big guns moving in the right direction. You can always rely on Sergio Garcia to muster some excitement. This time it came on the par 3 third. Woods also progressed to the fringes of the leaderboard as, working hard again, he went one better than the previous day with 72. Another crowd favourite, having played such a vital role in Europe's victory over the USA in last year's Ryder Cup, Thomas Bjorn suffered more agony. One more roll, but the Dane still couldn't disguise overall pleasure following his well-plotted 70. What other news on the course? Well, Nick Faldo, the 3-time Open champion who was playing alongside Bjorn, just made the cut, which fell at 150, 8 over par. But Sandy Lyle was among a group of 13 major championship winners for whom the event ended at halfway. Harrington, one of the great Irish hopes, did get to stick around for the final 2 days and left the course happy. So too did Hopkins, glad to have been underemployed.
Only a couple of rulings, the sort of rulings you only get at an Open or a major event. You wouldn't get them on the golf course on a normal day. A ball up against a spectator. When the spectator moved, the ball moved. Stuart Appleby's ball was in a television tower, and we had to find some relief for him, and it was fairly straightforward. So it was a pretty typical sort of day.
They say that love conquers all. Well, after 2 rounds at Royal St George's, the man from Georgia held a 2-stroke lead from Bjorn and Korea's SK Ho. Saturday would turn out to be sizzling. The weather more than cooperated, and after record crowds of 44,000 on Friday, all roads again led to the Open. The first task on arriving was to work out who was playing, when and where. It was an expectant, cosmopolitan gallery with golfers from all over the planet in with a chance of returning home from Sandwich to a hero's reception. Every vantage point was claimed early in the day, and it was a local hero who captured the imagination. A day after celebrating his 46th birthday, Nick Faldo inspired memories of past successes. Without a win for 6 years, the Englishman played beautifully. You had to be at the top of your game to extract a birdie from the 11th, a monster par 3 of 242 yards. He was now a serious contender. Another lesser-known Englishman was also having a day to remember, and one that he would ultimately never forget. Mark Rowe had stormed to the turn in 31 on Friday, opening up with 6 straight threes before settling for a 70. This time, though, he kept it going and conjured up one of the most spectacular shots of the entire championship on the 13th. An unlikely eagle too. That saw him improve to 1 over par and hop into contention. As always, hence the huge gallery, Woods was expected to mount a charge. It was forthcoming as the Millennium Open champion from St Andrews eagled the 4th. And then in less conventional circumstances, the 7th. His shot from sand hampered by the back of the bunker could only be described as magical. The biggest cheer of the day. And when Tiger feels that it's appropriate to celebrate like this, those privileged patrons of the Greenside Grandstand knew they'd witnessed something a wee bit special. Undeniably, Woods was on a roll. And when his birdie at the 9th dropped, the winner of 8 major championships began to look on course for number 9. It's a thirsty business, all of that cheering, but golf fans at the Open are well catered for, in the literal sense. When it's time for some refreshments to beat the heat, there's always the Tented Village, quite a complex, with much more on offer than simply food and drink. You can still keep abreast of the action. There's a comprehensive exhibition tent with a wide variety of equipment and clothing. Useful information about this and future championships. And of course, there's an abundance of the much-prized Open Championship merchandise. This year, the trade in baseball caps was particularly high, as was the run on the pharmacy for suntan lotion.
It's a really hot one today, man, I tell you. Suntan lotion's totally run out.
What a change from Thursday morning when umbrellas, not factor 20, were being used to provide protection from the elements. 2 other popular Tented Village locations. Binocular hire for those who desire to zoom into the thick of the action. And the purveyors of radios for those who know that whilst you can't be in 2 places at once, news can still travel instantaneously. In this case, grapevine rather than pipeline. Armed with a belly putter, Vijay Singh was demonstrating his stomach for a fight. The elegant Fijian took 2 steps forward with an eagle at the 7th. And using that momentum, Singh, one of the most dedicated players it's possible to encounter, joined an exclusive club by registering a birdie on the 8th. Shots like that make all the long hours of practice worthwhile. The former Masters and US PGA champion looking good. The same applied to Faldo, who, having birdied the 17th, struck this vintage approach to the 18th, earning justified acclaim.
I'm out there just giving it the best shot I can. And sure, I'm not the same golfer as 10 years ago, but occasionally I throw something in that reminds me I can still play, which is nice.
What a performance. A best of the day 67 and Faldo's 35th sub-70 round in the Open Championship. It was an ideal day for sailing or spending time relaxing at the beach. But on the links, serious business was being undertaken, and Thomas Bjorn made his intentions plain on the 4th. An eagle, and massive encouragement for the Steely Dane, who moved to 1 under par, only 1 shot behind the new leader, Tiger Woods. but Tiger would slip as the back nine bit back. Out in 31, Woods needed 38 for the concluding 9 holes to eventually sign for a disappointing 69, if there is such a thing at Royal St George's. Up in the grandstand, Sir Michael Bonalek, the former secretary of the RNA, was revelling in the atmosphere. So too was Mark Rowe, who holed out well for par on the 17th to keep his outstanding score intact. The spring in the step told its own story. Rowe and his playing partner, Jesper Parnevik, the popular Swede, received a glorious welcome on the 18th, the crowd showing their appreciation for a round that had thrust the 40-year-old veteran from Sheffield into the limelight. Rowe kept his concentration, another par and a 67. Little did he, or for that matter anyone else, know the heartbreak that was to follow. After Rowe had signed for his score and left the recorder's hut, it was discovered that he had inadvertently marked his own card. Parnevik had done the same, and under the rules of the game, they were disqualified.
In all honesty, you are responsible for your own scorecard, and I'm the only person to blame. The rules are there to protect the game of golf, and that's why we play the game, because it's such an honest game and has so much integrity. If I go home and see my children tonight, believe me, I'll be a little bit upset, but this is not that important.
This type of issue strikes at the very heart of the game. It strikes at the heart of golf being a self-regulating game. And because of that, players have to record their scorecards accurately. And I'm afraid if there are errors of this kind, the results can be very severe.
What a pity. But what a reaction from Rowe. Rowe's championship brought to a premature end. And the third round also saw hopes of an Ernie Earls double beginning to ebb away. The killer blow came in the form of a double bogey 7 on the 14th, and the optimism generated by his 68 on Friday was diluted by a Saturday 72 that left him 6 shots adrift of the leader. Sergio Garcia was also in danger of a costly double bogey on the 17th. Having chipped out the rough, he then chipped into the hole for par to eventually record a 70 and remain firmly in the hunt. Davis Love, the overnight leader, was overtaken as he reached the turn in 38. A solid back 9 was required, and with an eagle on the 14th, Love delivered. The 15th hole caused many problems for many players, but not for an upbeat Thomas Bjorn, who deftly saved par.
I'm going to go out and enjoy myself tomorrow. I promised myself that the next time I got in the contention of a major championship, I'm going to enjoy every second of it, and then hopefully it'll last all the way. I'm sure if I keep going down this track, I'll win my major championships one day.
The pugnacious 7-times winner on the European Tour was round in 69 as he dislodged Love from the top of the leaderboard. But Bjorn had numerous close challengers, among them Ben Curtis, a rookie professional from Kent. The town in America's Midwest, that is. Defying his lack of big-time and links experience, Curtis went into the final day only 1 over par. But winning, that was surely the stuff of dreams rather than reality for a player stationed at 396th in the world rankings. Bjorn, led by one from Love, with Woods and Kenny Perry, ensconced in a quintet of players 2 strokes adrift. The names of the golfing glitterati have been engraved on the base of the claret jug, and for the past 3 decades, the man responsible for carrying out this intricate craftsmanship has been a skilled Scot by the name of Alex Harvey. For 30 years, Harvey's been on site, applying the champion's name to the most coveted trophy in the game as soon as the last putt has been sunk.
I've been doing it since 73, so it comes second nature now, you know. And the hands are still steady enough now. There's a lot more on the trophy than just the name, and I can do most of that first. And the trouble is I've got to leave enough room for the name, and I don't find any difficulty at all. But when I'm putting the name down, the name that they're known by in the press, you know, Jack and John and Tom and all the rest of it. And Sevy had Sev. And I asked Mr. Mackenzie, who was secretary, do you want me to put Sev on it? And he thought for a minute, and he said, no, put Severiano. I mean, it's bad enough by Esteros, but I had Severiano. And he won it 3 times, so.
Harvey, who hopes to hand over the reins to his son Gary, got plenty of practice engraving the words Tom Watson. He did it 5 times, in fact, and bolstering the nostalgic feeling surrounding this year's championship, the evergreen 53-year-old performed superbly on Sunday. A 69 transported Watson into a tie for 18th. That was warmly appreciated by the knowledgeable grandstand dwellers, as was Greg Norman, who joined Watson on 6 over par with a round of 68. Continuing to turn back the clock of yesteryear was Nick Faldo, who, having already birdied the 5th, went on to eagle the 7th to take the great man to +1 for the championship. At that stage, you couldn't discount the great grinder's chances because Faldo quite evidently had the bit between his teeth. But following hard on the heels of that high came a thumping low, an expensive bogey at the very next hole. Back on the first tee, Ben Curtis was feeling the pressure of launching the biggest round of his career so far.
I was shaking in my boots, obviously, but, you know, I was just out there very focused on what I had to do and, you know, let my work, you know, speak for itself. And if it was good enough, fine. If not, I can live with it.
Curtis had no trouble living with the way he negotiated his opening test. A 442-yarder that threw the players in at the deep end. Controlling the ball well from the first cut of rough, the 26-year-old, whose best finish on the US Tour was a modest 13th at the Western Open a fortnight earlier, soothed his early nerves by setting up a birdie. 2 pars followed before the seemingly unflappable Curtis found the green of the converted par 5 4th in 2 blows and moved into red figures at 1 under par. Even then, few paid any great attention. We soon would. The sizable crowd spread all across the links thought that it was more significant when Vijay, which means victory in Hindi, played this approach to set up a birdie at the second. Singh to even par, suggesting he could complete the 3rd leg of the career Grand Slam. Then Bjorn set about making amends for his bogey on the first. A bonus 2 on the 3rd, which at 210 yards and a crosswind for much of the week was a tricky proposition. Davis Love had slipped metaphorically with 3 bogeys in 4 holes to start the round, which meant that Curtis and Bjorn enjoyed a slender lead with Wood still lurking ominously. Faldo, the runner-up to Norman here in 1993, thanks in no small part to a course record 63, just refused to go away. His imperious long iron to the 11th, an indication that he safeguarded a fierce big occasion self-belief. Curtis wasn't in folding mood either, and even though his facial contortions indicated otherwise, he left the 7th with another birdie in the bag. But the bookmakers didn't lose faith in Tiger. Having parred the first 3 holes, a birdie at the 4th was followed by this birdie at the 5th. At 1 under, he stayed put as the championship favourite. Those who stayed put on Maiden Hill to the left of the 6th green were rewarded by another peach of a shot from Singh. Having already triumphed twice this season on the US Tour, the Fijian made it a brace of birdies following his 3 at the 5th, this at the 6th and another at the 7th, before coming to grief on the 8th. Singh grateful to only drop a single shot after getting tangled up down there. Also on the 8th, and an offline putt, saw Woods record a galling bogey. Then another went on the 10th as devotees of Tiger, who has never won a major when trailing going into the last round, had less to cheer. In contrast, Bjorn coolly reached the turn in 34, again using his touch around the greens to keep the pack at bay. This chip brought a birdie on the 7th, as one began to wonder if the first Open champion from Scandinavia was about to be crowned. Then came 3 holes from Ben Curtis that were to change the nature of the afternoon. The young American suddenly sprinted into the lead at 5 under par with birdies on the 9th, 10th and 11th. Could he become the first player since Francis Ouimet outplayed Harry Varden and Ted Ray in the 1913 US Open to win a major championship at his very first attempt? The confident manner in which Curtis tackled the notorious par 3 11th pointed to the fact that the unthinkable had developed into the possible. The 500-to-1 pre-championship outsider found himself leading by 2 strokes from Bjorn, with Singh 4 back after a bogey at the 10th. At the 18th, Ernie Els was about to wrap up his championship. His title defence was gallant, but undoing the damage of a first-round 78 proved impossible. Ricky Roberts did his usual sterling job, but could only guide his boss into a tie for 18th. But there's always next year for this Springbok partnership. But by now, there was no doubting Faldo's status as a sentimental favourite. Having converted his birdie at the 11th, the crowd positively roared their approval for another here at the 14th to go to level par. But despite making great strides, Faldo would eventually stall at the very next hole. The dream effectively died in a bunker to the left of the 15th fairway. A bogey followed, as it did on the 16th and 17th, and Faldo was to finish on 3 over, thinking of what might have been. His Swedish playing partner, Fredrik Jakobsen, was to finish 2 over par in 6th place to add to his 5th spot at the US Open in Chicago earlier in the year. He was alongside Englishman Brian Davis, who put together a second 68 in as many days, even though he narrowly failed to par the last. Then it was time for the wonderful moment afforded to Britain's most successful post-war golfer. Faldo and of course his longtime caddy Fanny Sunesson enjoyed their well-deserved reception. As the saying goes, form is temporary, but class is permanent. By this advanced time of the day, the Harveys were thinking about their upcoming task, and the engravers were relieved to find out that none of the potential winners possessed even remotely lengthy names.
The winner's bound to come from this group here.
These top 9 people.
Top 10.
Yes.
And the rest will follow us. So whoever it wins out of that lot.
12 letters maximum,
so we're all right. That's it.
Pencil in Garcia.
And what of the young Spaniard? Well, his challenge never really left the launch pad. An attempted chip-in on the 18th just avoided the drop, and Garcia could not hide his disbelief. He would finish joint 10th with a closing 74. Things were definitely hotting up out on the course, especially for Ben Curtis and Andy Sutton, his English caddy, whose relationship to date spanned just 7 days. The enormity of what the young American could achieve began to take its toll. A bogey on the 12th was then followed by this tentative chip on the 14th, and another drop shot. And having found the centre of the fairway on the 15th, he, like so many others, failed to find the green in regulation, and another bogey transpired. Curtis was back to 2 under, and it looked as though his race was run. He, though, wouldn't be alone in feeling the power of the fearsome closing stretch. The momentum had switched from Curtis to Bjorn, who was playing with supreme confidence. His approach to the 10th emphasized his growing strength. Another par converted, his 3rd in a row, and he remained at 3 under, but now in the lead. Having regrouped following his poor start, Davis Love also forced his way back into the reckoning with a birdie at the 10th. It was a perfect start to the back 9. By now, there were no holds barred. All thoughts of playing conservatively were thrown out of the window, as Singh demonstrated by taking on the 14th green. He didn't quite reach the putting surface of the daunting 550-yarder in 2, but the hole did yield a birdie. Woods also kept himself in the equation with a birdie at the 14th, but all week he'd been waging a losing war on the back 9, and now birdies, not bogeys, were the only valid currency. Having found the middle of the fairway, he grossly misjudged his second shot to the 15th. Disbelievingly, Tiger walked up to the green, convinced that an up and down for par wasn't just crucial, it was imperative to stay in the hunt. He was right.
What's done is done. That's it. You move on. In our sport, always focus on the next shot. You can't live in the past. You got to live in the present. And once it's done, it's done. Move on.
The number of realistic title hopefuls was now being sharply reduced, but Bjorn, displaying true grit, appeared well equipped to embrace a life-changing victory. A string of 6 successive pars starting at the 8th was ended with this birdie at the 14th to move him to 4 under. In the space of just 5 holes, Curtis had been relegated from 2 clear of Bjorn to 2 adrift. Singh, the only other player beneath par. And prospects of a Bjorn victory would grow ever brighter. When Curtis tentatively bogeyed the 17th, It was his fourth drop shot in 6 emotionally draining holes. The Dane now led by 3. Standing on the 15th tee, Bjorn seemed imperious, only to drive into one of the cavernous bunkers lining the fairway. A bogey would result, and a seed of doubt was planted. Singh's title ambitions were struck a crippling blow when his push tee shot on the short 16th plugged in the bunker. Aware that anything fancy was asking for more trouble, he splashed out and made a bogey he could ill afford. Up on the 18th, all 460 yards of it, Curtis was concentrating on his approach. Well struck, but not in the comfort zone. His work was far from over. Meanwhile, back at the 16th, Bjorn was teeing off. A year ago at Muirfield, Ernie Els almost surrendered the title with a double bogey 5 at the 16th. Even when Bjorn found the bunker, a repeat of that scenario wasn't seriously considered. What followed will go down as one of, if not the most painful experiences of the Dane's entire career. Unaware of this drama, Curtis was striding up the 18th. Just maybe he was striding to victory. Bjorn got it right at the 3rd time of asking. But walked off with a damaging double bogey 5 that took him back to 1 under par and tied now with Curtis, who was still unaware of the dramas on the 16th. He faced an improbable up and down to remain on level terms with the Dane. Surely the pressure would be too excessive for one so inexperienced. The poise of a champion, Curtis had set the target and widely exceeded his own expectations.
You know, I came in here this week just trying to play the best I could and, you know, hopefully make the cut and, you know, compete on the weekend. And obviously I did that and went out there and, you know, probably played the best weekend of my life.
An understatement from a man now resigned to an anxious wait. Singh was still in the mix, and following this brave par putt at the 17th, needed to birdie the last to tie Curtis. The crowd were loving every single moment. But heaven had been downgraded to purgatory for Bjorn. Almost a sensational chip-in, but now he faced a tricky putt for a must-make par. Davis loved ruining his mistakes on the front 9 over the weekend, would tie with Woods in 4th place, 2 shots worse than Curtis, their previously unknown fellow countryman. Then it was time for Singh to be given his last throw of the dice. A valiant effort, but Singh had taken 1 shot too many. The three-horse race was down to 2. Back on the 17th, Bjorn faced the biggest putt of his life. Four shots gone in 3 holes, deflated spirits, the body language of someone trying to come to terms with abject disappointment. And yet that drive gave Bjorn the opportunity for redemption and a birdie he required. Only the truest of true strikes will suffice. Not bad, but not exactly birdie country. A penny for Bjorn's thoughts as he walked up the 18th to a thunderous chorus. It had been his for the taking. He had one last-ditch attempt. On the practice ground, Curtis certainly wasn't eliminating any eventuality. Bjorn gave it everything, but everything in this case wasn't enough. It was not to be the Dane's name engraved on the claret jug. And the final chapter for Alex Harvey began.
Right, Alex, it's definitely Ben Curtis.
Time is a factor. In golf, you've got to go to get your card recorded at the end. In that time, I can get it done. So it's probably about 5, 6, 7 minutes or so. I certainly miss it. It's been wonderful.
And whilst Alex Harvey's Opens draw to an end, for Ben, they just begin. The only man under par for the championship.
And with a score of 283, the winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer for the year is Ben Curtis.
Ben Curtis arrived from Ohio in anonymity. He leaves Royal St. George's in a blaze of glory and a guaranteed place in golf history.
I know the names that are on the trophy, obviously, just from watching and growing up around the game. I just can't describe it, how I feel right now. It's been unbelievable. I'm just a normal guy with a lot of talent, and that's the way I look at it, and hopefully my life is going to change from today.